Hello and welcome to this episode of Talking to Teachers. I'm Owen Dan here, and I'm here with Mr. Kiernan, also known as Mr. K. How you doing, man?
Yes, often known as Mr. K.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
Because you decided to make your name.
Well, I realized first day of school, if you're a new guy and you give someone an easier way to just address you, they'll take it. And then you become Mr. Initial. And that's who I am now.
That's why I'm Mr. G.
Yeah, Mr. J. Well, that one I understand.
It's too long. I don't even know his last name. Yeah. But I just want to ask, what is your CBA origin?
Well, I'm not from this area initially. We're South Jersey people, which we'll get to later, I'm sure. But so we're kind of new to the area, and I'm from Wall, or grew up in Wall. And my parents thought, well, we could sort of try something like a Catholic school for high school. I have a twin brother named Mac who went to CBA the same year I did. And for them, it was a practical means of where can we get both of these twin boys into, and that'll be the school they go to. So we got into St. Rose and RBC, and I was a football player at the time. So they were like, okay, probably RBC. We don't think he's even going to get into CBA. So I've been beating the odds since the very beginning, Mr. Danaher. You know, they didn't think I was going to get in at CBA, but then we ended up both getting in, and we thought this is perfect. My parents were excited. I was nervous but excited, and then it worked out.
Oh, yeah, the same. Took me a while to get. I didn't think I was going to make this school, but I did.
Yeah.
What made you come back to CBA?
Well, it was a very complicated story. Well, COVID had brought me to Iceland in a very indirect way. So I was in Iceland, and I learned very harshly that there's not that many jobs for Americans in Iceland outside of being a barista or a tour guide or something like that. So when I was finishing my graduate work there was this question of what am I going to do beyond this place? And as I was literally finishing my thesis, about to hit send, I sent out a couple different job applications just figuring out, we'll see what happens. And I applied to places in California, and Oregon, and Washington State, and Finland, and Sweden, and Iceland. And eventually, I got a little note from RBC that, hey, we might be interested. And then, as I was talking to Mr. Noonan, who was my old, great, legendary English teacher, I think there was a sense of, oh no, he might be coming back and going to RBC. So, and then in a very strange set of circumstances, my freshman year English teacher retired.
It was
days later. Mrs. Drewing.
I had her freshman year too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Great teacher.
Great teacher. Great teacher. And so it really came full circle. It's like, whoa, in Iceland, I have this opportunity to work at CBA. I might as well take it. And that's what brought me back. So it was a very weird full circle story. And it's nice to be back.
That's nice.
Yeah.
What made you choose English as a profession? Teach.
The booming job market mostly. But I had unbelievably good English teachers at CBA. And that was like my thing. It was doing Arister, writing music reviews in the newspaper, doing the Academy Torch. I was just doing everything I could to like read and write and engage with music in any way that I could. And then that sort of became my thing. And then taking, Mr. Matson's AP history classes and Mr. Noonan's AP English classes, I ended up writing just nonstop for like the last 2 years of CBA. So then by the end of it, I was like, I'm actually good at writing. These people have, through blood, sweat, and tears, really like inculcated this amazing ability to write and this discipline. And I got this sort of like voice of like, I really enjoy doing this. And it became my thing. And then did that in college. And then in New York City, I was in finance and nonprofits. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of, reading books isn't paying the bills. I'm going to try other stuff. And then it just was never quite the fit. And COVID hits, and then Iceland, and then, well, I fell back on the things that I learned at CBA, which is how to write well and how to read well and read intently, and it became a real passion of mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you get to teach people.
Yeah.
What you learned,
Yeah.
and going to teaching. What is the hardest part of being a teacher? Being
Hardest part of being
second year at CBA.
Well, I'll answer that indirectly by saying I'm at a great advantage at this school because I went here, and it helps me really connect with students and say, I know you're having a hard day. It's February. You're tired. You're cold. I sat in that seat right over there, and I remember having those long days, yada, yada, yada. And the best thing you can do is just relax, and tomorrow will come, and then it'll be next week. And by the time you know, it'll be the end of the year, and then by the time you know that, you'll be graduating. So it goes fast.
Yeah.
And I think the hard part of teaching is getting people to really pay attention, not to what you're saying, but to what they're capable of. And you have to really shake it into people sometimes of saying, hey, you're only here for a couple years.
Yeah.
And you're only a teenager once. And you get the great fortune of being a teenager at CBA. And yes, you don't have access to the more earthly pleasures of other normal high school experiences.
Yeah.
But you get to really given a blank canvas of what do you want to do? What are you interested in? And there's so many supportive people who will help you. So I think having people take it seriously. And, you guys are putting your stamp on the school with this program. That's the key, really, of CBA is so willing to let students run things and do cool stuff. And the thing that I always try to tell kids is you have the resources here. It's just a matter of, are you going to do it? Are you going to be willing to fail or look stupid or do something that's out of the norm? And then you leave behind a great legacy and a great momentum, and then there's people behind you who keep doing what you're doing, and that's the beauty of it. And trying to get students to see that is really the key.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I spent 3 years. I felt like I did nothing, and now I joined this program, and it's totally changed how I want to, what I see in life.
Yeah, you're a different...
Yeah.
It's your thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is COVID. It's a lot of it's not your fault.
Yeah.
The way it lined up for you guys was rough.
I couldn't be happier to be here, though. So,
good, man.
But we talk about what's the hardest part. What was the best part, or what helped the students enjoy it so much more? What did? For me personally, we did the arguments where one kid goes on one side of the wall and the other. And usually Merkler would do whatever he wants and try to just beat everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think you got to let people perform and be creative, especially in English class. And sometimes organized chaos is a very healthy thing for 17-year-old boys who are overworked with academics. Let them have a strong take. You're allowed to be combative as long as you don't push it too far. And figure out what are the viewpoints that come out of that.
Yeah.
And that's what's inside of every great book. So it's all there. You just have to get your hands dirty. So I love to mix things up.
Yeah.
I like debates, Mad Libs. I like doing having a visual presentation of whatever you're reading. I like thinking abstractly. Kids are running around all day. There's 40 minutes of a bell and then a class and then a bell, and you have to break that rhythm. Otherwise, they'll be asleep.
Yeah, I think a big thing was. Did you think you used humor as a way to get people to get into it? It helped me. I think it really actually made me
good.
I thought it helped. I love comedy, and I just thought that would really push me to try to learn something more about it because it was funny to me. In some ways.
Yeah, and I really wanted you guys to see anything as funny as possible. There's hilarious... In a lot of ways, Frankenstein is a hilarious book.
It's a crazy book.
It's a crazy book. It's a deeply mentally disturbed and sexually frustrated scientist and how he ruins his life in the world. And there's sort of nothing funnier than that. That's classic.
Yeah, I think it makes it easier because Frankenstein is described as like most I've talked to kids, they're like they just do not understand it, but when you can put it into that way that they would understand it completely, like it opens their eyes to it.
And that's the whole Mel Brooks thing. I mean, like, Young Frankenstein is really taking an absurd premise and using it as horror, but it so can easily be made into a comedy. Like the line between horror or between very serious critique and comedy are so thin that it just takes a couple kids and a couple inappropriate jokes that it all gets pushed into overdrive and it becomes a comedy.
Yeah, scary movie.
Scary movie. Yeah, exactly. I mean, taking a scary movie approach to literature is great. If you can write funny jokes that satirize the main motifs of a story, I remember we worked on how do we make this a stereotypical like comedy, or how do we make this a stereotypical romance?
Yeah.
And there's always those tropes, and comedy, works of art, books, movies, all these things are, they were changed a million times as they were being written. So there's no reason why we can't do that while we're analyzing it. We can just pretend like this word is something else, and it becomes a different story.
Do you have like a favorite class or a favorite like topic to talk about?
As a teacher, or do you mean when I was a student here?
I was a teacher.
As a teacher, I like modernism a lot, and I love teaching film. If I can teach film and literature together,
I love film.
Yeah?
Big movie guy.
Yeah, what do you do? Are you in Mr. Vietta's class this year? Or?
I wish I did take it. I have a friend that's in it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like the three things I love in life is sports, music, and movies. Those are like the three things.
I'm with you.
When you get all three of those together too, amazing.
Yeah. High School Musical.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
High School Musical, yeah. It's a great one. All right. As a sports fan, you're a big Philly guy.
Yeah.
Do you think Philadelphia is cursed?
Absolutely. No question. And, it's been very instructive to me as a person. You meet people and they have very traumatic young lives. And then it teaches them a really harsh reality of the world, often too young. And that leads to a lot of complications later in life. And being a Philly sports fan is sort of a small version of that.
Yeah.
When you lose the World Series, the Super Bowl,
never passed the second round in the NBA.
Never passed the second round in the NBA, losing to the Celtics, blowing certain leads that are, and you do that all in a very short amount of time. Things like cold weather or debt or universal embarrassment or being canceled, or losing your job, like those things don't sting as much when you get to see like a world of disappointment. And you get born into it, right? So it's kind of like being cursed.
Yeah, you're born. I mean, being a Jets fan, I'm born with a curse. At least you had a Super Bowl a couple of years. I have not done that.
Yeah.
11 years, nothing.
But don't you think that's a kind of a beautiful thing? It helps you understand suffering.
Yeah.
In a way. It makes you a better Christian, is what I'm saying.
I bet it.
Being a Jets fan makes you a better Catholic. It makes you a better man. It makes you better empathic because you realize life is short. And things will get messy, and it'll mostly not work in your favor. And if you can think about that from that perspective, then every great day is a moment of bliss. Every 40-point Joel Embiid game is a beautiful thing. You can appreciate it because you know the other shoe's going to drop.
Yeah. One day you might drop 70.
Yeah, one day I'll drop 70, and then the next week, Jonathan Kuminga will roll over his knee, and it's over. So... yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
But, all right, well, I just want to say thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Man, this has been a blast. But I just want to say thank you for watching. For Mr. K, I'm Owen Danier, and I'll see you next time.